I am sitting in my new apartment overlooking downtown Denver, watching the city lights flicker against the darkness. My phone buzzes with another missed call from Mom. Last night she called crying, begging me to forgive and forget. She told me Dad lost his law license and the family is facing bankruptcy. But here I am, thriving in my new life while they crumble. But let me take you back to where it all started when I thought family meant everything. Before I share this story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you are ready for a story about standing up for yourself, no matter the cost, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama. Trust me, you will want to stick around for this one, because what happened next changed everything. Now let me tell you how my perfect family fell apart. Growing up in Millfield, Colorado, the Hartwell family was everything people admired. Dad Robert was the most successful attorney in town, handling cases for wealthy ranchers and business owners. Mom Patricia ran the most prestigious medical practice, treating everyone from the mayor to the local celebrities. Our house was the biggest on Maple Street, with perfectly manicured lawns and dinner parties every month. But inside that perfect house, there was always an invisible hierarchy, and I was never at the top. My sister Savannah was the golden child. 4 years younger than my 28 years, she had always been the star. While I worked my way through college with student loans and part-time jobs, Savannah got a full ride from Mom and Dad. While I rented a small apartment downtown and worked at a local marketing firm, she lived at home in luxury while attending her MBA program that our parents gladly funded. The differences showed up everywhere. Every Christmas morning, Savannah unwrapped designer handbags, expensive jewelry, and electronics, while I received greeting cards with $50 and an invitation to family dinner. On her 21st birthday, they bought her a brand new Honda Civic. On mine, they took me to Applebee's. When she graduated college, they threw a party with over 100 guests. When I got my marketing degree, they sent a congratulations text. Despite all this, I tried to maintain a good relationship with them. I convinced myself that maybe they just connected better with Savannah's personality, or maybe I was too sensitive about the whole thing. I kept showing up to family events, kept trying to prove myself worthy of their attention and love. 2 years ago, I met Marcus Thompson at a small coffee shop near my office. He was a software engineer who had just moved to Colorado from California for a new job. Tall, dark hair, kind eyes, and the most genuine smile I had ever seen. We started talking about books, then moved to discussing our dreams and ambitions. That conversation lasted 4 hours, and I knew he was special. Marcus and I built something real together. We went hiking every weekend, cooked together, shared our deepest fears and biggest hopes. He was the first person who made me feel like I was enough just as I was. After 6 months of dating, I felt confident enough to introduce him to my family. The first family dinner with Marcus went well, or so I thought. Mom and Dad seemed impressed with his education and career prospects. Savannah was unusually chatty, asking him endless questions about his work, his hobbies, his background. I felt proud watching my boyfriend charm my family. Finally, I thought they would see that I had good judgment and deserved their respect. But over the following months, I started noticing things that made my stomach twist with unease. Marcus began asking about Savannah more frequently. When would she be home? What was she studying? Did she have a boyfriend? I told myself he was just being polite and trying to connect with my family. Then came the dinner 3 weeks ago. We were all gathered around the dining room table, Mom serving her famous pot roast, Dad discussing his latest legal victory. I excused myself to use the restroom, and when I returned, I caught Marcus and Savannah locked in an intense conversation, their voices low and secretive. The moment they saw me, they both went quiet and looked away from each other. Marcus left early that night, claiming he had an important work call in the morning. As I walked him to his car, he seemed distracted and distant. When I asked if everything was okay, he kissed my forehead and said everything was fine, but something in his eyes told me otherwise. The truth hit me like a freight train on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I had left work early with a terrible headache and decided to stop by the family house to pick up some old photo albums Mom had promised me. I used my key to let myself in, expecting the house to be empty since everyone should have been at work or school. Instead, I walked into the living room and found Marcus and Savannah on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms, kissing with a passion that made my blood freeze. They were so lost in each other that they did not even hear me come in. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, watching my boyfriend of 2 years betray me with my own sister. When they finally noticed me, neither one of them had the decency to look ashamed. Savannah actually rolled her eyes and said, "Well, this was bound to happen eventually." Marcus jumped up from the couch, running his hands through his hair, but he would not meet my eyes. "How long?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. 6 months, Savannah answered without hesitation. "And honestly, Iris Marcus deserves someone better than you anyway. Someone who understands him, someone who shares his ambitions. We connect on a level you never could." Marcus finally spoke up, but his words were even worse than Savannah's cruelty. "It just happened, Iris. We tried to fight it, but we could not help ourselves." He grabbed his jacket from the chair and headed toward the door. "I will come by your place later to get my things." "Do not bother," I called after him. "I will leave them on the front steps." After Marcus left, Savannah and I stood in that living room, two sisters who suddenly felt like strangers. She crossed her arms and looked at me with the same expression she used to have when we were kids, and she was about to tell Mom and Dad about something I had done wrong. "I hope you are not going to make a big scene about this," she said. "Marcus and I are in love. Real love, not whatever that shallow thing was between you two." When Mom and Dad came home that evening, I told them everything. I explained how I had walked in on my boyfriend and sister together, how they had been carrying on behind my back for months, how neither one of them showed any remorse. I expected shock outrage demands that Savannah apologize immediately. Instead, Mom sighed deeply and sat down on the couch where I had found them together just hours before. "Iris, honey, maybe this is just the universe telling you that you and Marcus were not meant to be. These things happen sometimes. Savannah and Marcus seem very happy together." Dad nodded in agreement. "Your mother is right. Do not make this into a big drama. Family comes first, and you should support your sister. Love is unpredictable, and we cannot always control who we fall for." I could not believe what I was hearing. My own parents were taking the side of my cheating sister and my ex-boyfriend. They were asking me to be understanding about one of the most devastating betrayals I had ever experienced. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "She stole my boyfriend, and you want me to be supportive." "Nobody stole anybody," Mom replied firmly. "Sometimes people just realize they are better suited for someone else. You are being dramatic and frankly a little selfish." The final blow came 2 weeks later when Savannah announced at Sunday family dinner that she and Marcus were engaged. She flashed a beautiful diamond ring that I recognized as Mom's old engagement ring, the one I had always assumed would be mine someday. "We are planning a spring wedding," Savannah announced, beaming with joy. "Just something small and intimate, maybe 50 people." Everyone congratulated them. Dad opened a bottle of champagne. Mom started talking about dress shopping and venue options. I sat there in complete silence, feeling like I was watching this scene from outside my body. "We hope you will be there, Iris," Marcus said, his voice uncertain for the first time since I had known him. "It would mean a lot to both of us." I set down my wine glass and looked around the table at these people who had raised me, who were supposed to love and protect me. "I will not be attending," I said quietly, "and I will not be part of this family anymore if this is how you choose to treat me." "You are overreacting," Dad said sternly. "You will come to your senses eventually." "No," I replied, standing up from the table. "I will not." 2 weeks later, I had found a new job in Denver, packed my belongings, and left Millfield forever. As I drove away from the only home I had ever known, I felt something I had never experienced before, complete freedom from people who had never valued me anyway. 6 months in Denver changed everything for me. I found a position at a dynamic marketing agency that appreciated my creativity and work ethic. I made new friends who actually listened when I spoke and included me in their plans. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But the anger still burned inside me. Late at night, I would lie awake thinking about how easily my family had dismissed my pain, how quickly they had chosen Savannah over me, how they probably barely noticed I was gone. They had moved on with their lives while I was left to rebuild mine from scratch. Then, through a former colleague who still lived in Millfield, I learned something interesting about my perfect family. Dad was involved in a financial scandal at his law firm. Apparently, he had been skimming money from client accounts to fund his lifestyle and Savannah's expensive education. The partners were starting to ask questions, and an internal investigation was quietly underway. My marketing skills had taught me how to research and gather information, so I started digging deeper. It was amazing what you could find when you knew where to look and who to ask. Within 3 weeks, I had uncovered enough evidence to destroy all of them. Savannah's academic record was not as pristine as everyone believed. She had been having an affair with her married economics professor, Dr. William Chen, in exchange for better grades and recommendation letters. I found email exchanges between them that were definitely not appropriate for a student-teacher relationship. I also discovered that the professor had been under investigation by the university for similar behavior with other students. Mom's medical practice had its own dark secrets. She had been prescribing unnecessary medications to wealthy patients who wanted prescription drugs for recreational use. Opioids, anxiety medications, stimulants, whatever they wanted as long as they paid cash and did not ask questions. She was essentially running a legal drug-dealing operation out of her supposedly respectable clinic. The more I learned, the more I realized that my perfect family was built on lies, corruption, and manipulation. They had spent years making me feel like I was not good enough to be part of their world, when in reality, their world was rotten to its core. I spent 2 months carefully planning my revenge. I wanted everything to happen simultaneously for maximum impact. I contacted the State Bar Association with detailed evidence of Dad's financial misconduct. I reached out to a local investigative journalist with proof of Mom's prescription fraud. For Savannah, I anonymously sent the university administration evidence of her academic dishonesty, including screenshots of her text conversations with the professor. But I saved the best for last. A security camera outside the professor's office had captured Savannah going into his office after hours on multiple occasions. The footage was pretty damning, especially when combined with the email evidence. I made sure this footage found its way to the professor's wife, the university board, and several social media accounts that specialized in exposing academic corruption. I timed everything to hit during the week before Savannah's wedding. On Monday, Dad received notice that he was being suspended from his law firm pending a full investigation by the State Bar Association. On Tuesday, Mom got a visit from the medical board and several federal investigators interested in her prescribing practices. On Wednesday, Savannah was expelled from her MBA program for academic dishonesty, and her relationship with Professor Chen became front-page news in the local paper. By Thursday, Marcus had called off the wedding. Apparently, being associated with a family of criminals was not good for his professional reputation. He moved back to California without even saying goodbye to Savannah. The final touch was a detailed letter I sent to the local newspaper outlining how this seemingly perfect family had been living a lie for years. I included just enough personal details to make it clear that the information came from someone who knew them intimately, but I never revealed my identity. Within a week, the Hartwell name went from being respected to being a local scandal. Dad lost his law license. Mom lost her medical practice. Savannah moved back in with her parents because she could no longer afford her own place. The house on Maple Street went up for sale to pay for legal fees and fines. 1 year later, I am living my best life in Denver. My marketing agency promoted me to senior account manager, and I am working with clients I could never have dreamed of reaching back in Millfield. I bought a beautiful condo in a high-rise downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Rocky Mountains. Most importantly, I met Jason at a hiking group 6 months ago. He is a physical therapist with the kindest heart and the most genuine laugh. When I told him about my family situation, he did not try to convince me to forgive them or suggest that blood is thicker than water. Instead, he said, "Sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we are born into." That was the moment I knew he was different from anyone I had ever met. The phone calls from home started about 2 months after everything fell apart. First Mom, then Dad, then even Savannah. They were desperate, crying, begging me to help restore the family reputation. They needed character references for Dad's legal proceedings. They wanted me to testify that Mom had always been ethical in her practice. They hoped I could somehow convince the university to readmit Savannah. Each time my response was the same: "You made your choice when you chose her over me." Dad lost his law license permanently and now works as a paralegal for a firm in the next town. Mom lost her medical license and works as a nurse at a clinic 2 hours away. They had to sell the house and move into a small apartment. Savannah works at a retail job in the mall, still living with her parents because she cannot afford anything else. A few months ago, I ran into Marcus at the Denver airport. He was catching a flight back to California, looking older and more tired than I remembered. He tried to apologize, to explain his actions, to suggest we could be friends now that enough time had passed. I looked at him for a long moment, this man who had once meant everything to me, and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret, just complete indifference. "I hope you find what you are looking for, Marcus," I told him, "but it was never going to be with me or my sister." Some people might say I went too far with my revenge, that I should have been the bigger person and just moved on with my life. But those people have never had their own family choose their betrayer over them. They have never been told that their pain does not matter because someone else's happiness is more important. I learned something crucial during this whole experience. Respect is not something you are owed because of shared DNA. Love is not unconditional when it comes with conditions, and sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to remove yourself completely from people who will never value you the way you deserve to be valued. I sleep peacefully every night, knowing that I chose my own worth over their approval. And honestly, I have never been happier. The family I have built here in Denver with Jason, my friends and my colleagues, is based on mutual respect, genuine care, and authentic love. These people celebrate my successes without comparison to anyone else. They support me when I am struggling without making me feel like a burden. They see me for who I am, not who they think I should be. Looking back, I realized that what happened was not really about Marcus or Savannah or even the cheating. It was about a lifetime of being treated as less important, less worthy, less valuable than someone else. It was about being expected to shrink myself to make room for someone else to shine. It was about being told that my feelings did not matter as much as keeping the peace. When I finally fought back, when I finally said enough, when I finally chose myself over their dysfunctional version of family loyalty, I discovered something amazing. I am enough exactly as I am. I always was enough. They just could not see it because they were too busy protecting their golden child to notice they had another daughter who needed love too. What happened to my family was not really my revenge. It was simply the natural consequence of their own actions catching up with them. I just made sure it happened a little faster than it might have otherwise. They destroyed their own lives with their lies, corruption, and cruelty. I just gave them a push in the direction they were already heading. Sometimes people ask me if I ever miss them, if I ever regret cutting them out of my life so completely. The answer is simple. You cannot miss something you never really had. I never had a family that truly loved and supported me. I had people who shared my DNA and expected me to be grateful for scraps of attention. Now I have something so much better. I have people who choose me every day, not because they have to, but because they want to. I have built a life based on my own values, my own goals, my own definition of success. I wake up every morning in my beautiful apartment, go to a job that challenges and fulfills me, and come home to someone who thinks I am amazing just the way I am. The girl who used to beg for crumbs of approval from people who never really saw her is gone. In her place is a woman who knows her own worth and refuses to settle for less than she deserves. And that transformation, painful as it was, is the greatest gift my family ever gave me. They taught me through their absence what real love actually looks like. What do you think about family loyalty versus self-respect? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences about finding your strength and building the life you deserve. Share this with someone who needs to hear that choosing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you are worth more than anyone else's version of who you should be. Until next time, keep choosing yourself.